Good day, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of my story with me, Alain Walljee, where I'm just sharing about my life. And this is literally unplanned, it's off the cuff. When I did the first recording yesterday, it was actually completely unplanned, and I just decided in the spur of the moment, let me do this for a change. Let people hear about the story, behind the grace or behind the reputation or behind the name. So that's why I'm just sharing about myself. I don't know when this is going to stop. I don't know when I'm going to stop. I'm obviously not going to share every little detail of my life, but I'll try to even do some of the gooey details in other sessions and so on. But what inspired me this morning, I actually started this clip earlier, around 10, because I was waiting for an appointment. As you can see, I'm back in the church office, and I had an appointment at 10, and my appointment didn't come out, so I started a recording out of what I was busy doing here in the office. And around 10:15, I think it was 5 minutes into the recording, and then my appointment came, and we were busy until just before 12, and I just grabbed a cup of coffee quickly, and I thought, let me start this recording over. So what happened this morning was I was sorting out my qualifications and my certificates and stuff, because I wanted to just give the office some warmth, some character. So I've got some things here I'm busy doing that was on the wall, that they were on the walls here. This is our church's affiliation with the Christian network of churches. This is my ordination of last year as an apostle under Apostle Martin Burke, and these were the only 3 hanging. And so I started yesterday, the day before, looking for my qualifications, because with the move they were in boxes in different places, and I finally found the bulk of them this morning, and that's when I got the inspiration to do the second episode of my story. So I thought I'll just share with you some of the stuff I've got here. It's not as impressive as it may look. It's a lot of stuff, but it doesn't, At the end of the day, I've never been somebody to lead with this kind of stuff. I've never been somebody who told people what I have studied. It's not that it's, profound or anything, or something high up there, but I've been around a while, I've actually lived a while. But anyway, so when you consider the messages I preach, you should know there's some meat, in this meal, so to speak. In yesterday's recording, I spoke a little bit about the fact that after all these years in the ministry, and after all this journey of grace and of faith and of ministry and serving and laboring in the kingdom, as leaders and elders in the body, we have equity with God. I have equity with God. It's not something I brag about, but it's not something I'm going to hide, because that would be false humility. I know who I am in Christ, and I know the journey along which the Lord had brought me. Now, before I talk about this, let me just say this for context, because I don't think I was clear on all the details yesterday. But I got saved on the 12th of April 1993. That's when Jesus found me, and I gave my heart to Christ. So in April this year, I will literally have been saved. I would have been saved. I will be saved for 32 years. 32 years. That's a lifetime. So I started early, but I'll share more about my salvation and how God raised me and how I grew. And my father, who was also my pastor, and whose preaching actually brought me to Christ, he played a huge role in my growth, and I'll share more about that in other sessions. But for now, I just want to get to these documents here, and I'm going to show you. But my salvation was so radical. I started preaching in 93. I started preaching in 93 in youth. Started preaching at open airs in 94 and cottage meetings. Actually started first preaching in cottage meetings in 94, and then in open air services in 95 for the first time in church. Started actually, my first sermon in a church was outside of PE in Colesburg in 95 with another evangelist that I accompanied to Colesburg. and I was in high school then, and then at our church, and so I've been preaching for a very, very long time, um, from the time of my youth. But here's the thing: when I was in high school, although I was already preaching, and I had some prophetic words that I would be an international speaker and all of this stuff, but I had no desire to actually go into ministry. I think I said that yesterday as well. I had no desire to actually go into ministry as a profession. I had no plans, no intention of doing that. I wanted the life I wanted. I wanted a secular job and so on. But when the calling of God came to me, it came so, and that's why what made it so dramatic and drastic. But my response was drastic as well, because God called me, and then I actually made a decision that I'm not going to finish or write my matric exam, my matric external final exam. I literally made the decision. We were staying in Galvindale, here in PE at the time, and for exams at the time, I don't know what the library does now, but at the time, the matriculants would go to the library to study, because we didn't have big houses and stuff, and houses were busy with other people in the family or in and out of the house. So a lot of matriculants went and studied at the library. So I knew my classmates and friends were studying at the library, some of them, and I would go down to the library to just have fun and tease them. I wasn't studying, and they asked me, "Aren't you gonna write? Aren't you studying?" I said, "No, I'm not writing the exam. I'm going to ministry." And they didn't really find it funny, because I was preaching to them in class. Our whole high school career, I had most of them repent. I had all of my friends give their hearts to Christ in high school. I remember fasting 1 week and visiting 3 or 4 of my friends at their homes in Calvindale, and made all of them go on their knees and give their hearts to Christ. That's how on fire for God I was. It's actually funny to think about it. They're all grown in adults now. I wonder if they can remember Elroy, Leon, wie was die ander ene wat ook by omgegaan het? In Calvindale. I made all of them repent. Elroy's in the police. Anyway, so I said to them, "No, I'm going to ministry. I'm not going to." I made this drastic decision on my own that I'm not going to write my matric exams, because I don't want to have anything to fall back on. I'm going into ministry. I'm going to do God's work. I literally had no respect for money. I had no respect for the world. It's not a good thing. It's not wise. I had no respect for process in this world. I just wanted to do God's work. And I will never forget, it was 2 days before our first external exam. I think the first exam we wrote on a Tuesday would have been accounting or accountancy, whatever the English one was. We did Afrikaans, Reken en Kunde. We were 10C, Chapman High School. But anyway, and when I was teasing my classmates in the library, they got so concerned, some of them, that I'm not going to write. They actually, one of them called the deputy principal at the time, was acting principal, Mr. Jonas, who is now with NMU, in charge of the business school or something there. I don't know if he's still in that role there, but anyway, he was our deputy principal at the time, and he was the deputy principal, and he actually called me at the house. We had a black home phone. We used to have this home phone with the cords, and we had a black phone, and he called me at home one afternoon, and he said, "What is this I'm hearing that you're not writing?" And Mr. Jonas was very strict, everyone was scared of him. But I knew who I was, I knew what decision I made, and God is number one in my life. And I told Mr. Jonas, "Sir, it doesn't matter what you say to me, I'm not writing that exam." And he tried to show me, he tried to scold, he tried to, plead, he tried his best, and he did that because they knew my potential. I was very good in class, I was good academically, I was considered one of the clever ones in class, So he thought I'm throwing my life away, which I probably would have, if I didn't write the exam. So he didn't sway me. So after the call, I was very, calm. I'm not going to write. And it was 2 days, the Sunday before our first external first exam, which was going to be accounting. And I remember my father called me to the room, and he said, "Hey, how's the studying going for the exams?" And I said, "It's not going." He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I'm not going to write." He said, "Why?" I said, "I'm going to full-time ministry." And I'll never forget, he broke out with a laugh. I mean, he cracked himself. He laughed. He hom klaar gelag. Because I'm not going to write. And then when he calmed down and he saw I'm serious, then he started talking, explaining, you need this. And I can't even tell you what he said, but I remember he spoke for almost like 2 hours to me without me saying anything. And I can't even remember what he said. But what I do remember is after he spoke, I decided I'm going to go and write. So now I had a day and a half to prepare for the exam on Tuesday. And long story short, I should have done so much better if I had studied earlier. But so basically, I studied for each exam a day or two before I had to write it, as per the schedule at the time. And I ended up still passing with a distinction. Back then, we used distinctions and all of those things, not this bachelor thing that we have today. So I still passed with distinction. So I was fairly clever, as you can see. You know, did most of my, in fact, I did all of my subjects on higher grade. Although I think I only passed physics on standard grade or something like that. You know, it was either physics or maths. You know, but point is, yeah, no, it was physics. I'm sitting here with my senior certificate right in front of me. So I just wanted to show you for somebody who was so radically was called by God and took the call so radically. I decided not to even write matric. So when you see this, you must know it's the grace of God. It's not even an achievement. I don't see this as achievement at all. And I don't even remember doing all of this stuff. I know at the time it could have been a schlep or there was some work put in, but this I took in stride. This was not work for me, you know. These things were easy to get. So I just want to take you through them. So I've got my senior certificate, got that. So I want to put all these things up on the wall in the office, give it some warmth, some character, some feeling, some flavor, you know. Then there's my Bible school certificate. I did 3 years full-time Bible school, a theology diploma. These are the subjects we did. We did a lot of subjects, Life of Christ, Genesis, Acts, Hebrews, Romans, well, the books of the Bible, pastoral counseling, ministerial ethics, ministerial duties, church growth, spiritual burnout, holiness, hermeneutics, world religion, public speaking. You know, we did Jewish history. We did a lot of stuff. Major prophets, minor prophets, tabernacle, marriage counseling, spiritual leadership. You know, there's a lot of subjects over 3 years. You know, and then I did two years of law at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University before it became NMU. I didn't finish that law degree. There's a story there as well, but we'll talk about that if we get there eventually, if the Lord allows. And I was ordained in the Apostolic Church International Fellowship in 2004, although I got my license in another church in 2002. I got my pastoral license in 2002. In 2006, I did a private investigator course through Intech College because of a childhood dream. And I just did this for that stupid, aggressive, arrogant reason, because I can. I just did this out of the blue. I had a childhood dream of being a spy, you know. And you must understand me, when I was in high school, we didn't have a TV in the house, so I read a lot. I read like 4 or 5 books a week. So ek het geboren in the library. And I used to read a lot of spy novels and stuff, so I always wanted to do investigation and that kind of thing. So I did a private investigator course through Intech. It was a correspondence course. I started working in the police in beginning of 2007, got the job in 2006, and did a course in the Public Finance Management Act and Financial Regulations. Did a computer course, although I was already literate in computer, but they sent us on this course, so I just went. And perhaps that's why I feel like I didn't work for this stuff, you know. The courses were available and I went and did it. And many of you might not know this, but when I worked in spiritual services, I actually came to spiritual services. The administrative position I got there was as secretary to the section commander, the section head, who was a brigadier, a director at the time. With the ranks they used back then was director, and but he was suspended, pending an investigation against him for a matter against him, internal procedures against him, and so I basically worked for the 2 colonels that rotated running the section at the time, and they sent me on this course, the Modern Personal Assistant. So just for those who know, I know how to follow, hey. So when I was young in church, I packed instruments into our car, packed them out at church for my father, packed them into church, packed them back into the car, packed them back into the house. I did that for most of my high school career, all of it, so to speak. Yeah, and I've been doing it even when I planted churches. But when it comes to even the secular world, the work I was doing, but although I was not quite doing secretarial work because there was no director for me to do it to, and I basically just did admin work. So I was the go-to guy for other stuff. In fact, during my time as a secretary, I wrote a policy document, a draft policy for spiritual services, because the old one had been repealed years before, and I had time to do research. And one of the colonels he just had institutional knowledge, and he had all the documents of the past, of the history of subs and of spiritual services, and he gave me access to all of that stuff. And I wrote proposals, I wrote policies. I did a lot of language checking of a religious survey we did. So I wasn't quite being a secretary, but I went on the course, the modern personal assistant. So I'll make a good assistant to a billionaire or something. But anyway, and the next one that I got is the police training. When I became a chaplain, I was sent on police training, the shortened 3-month version. The normal course at the time was 6 months, the basic training. We were sent on 3 months because we already had ranks, so and then this is the chaplain's orientation workshop I did in 2010. This was just from the Galvin police station, because in 2010 I transferred from head office in Pretoria back to PE, and I'll tell you more about that transfer and why in other recordings, in other episodes. This is from the Victim Support Center, Excellent Service Delivery. And might I also add, in 2011, I don't have it here because it's framed in a nice frame which is in my boxes somewhere else, in storage really. But I also got the Prestige Awards of the then Mount Road Cluster Prestige Awards. So I got the award for Best Community Involvement as a Chaplain in 2011, and I got this from the station, from, I don't know what, the Victim Support Center gave me that. Captain at the time, Captain Renee Williams, she gave me that. It was Lieutenant Renee Williams at the time. She gave me that because of all my assistance and help in the Victim Support Center. And then I got this bachelor's degree in Christian education from Impact University. I got this in 2013, but I've been doing it like on and off since 2006. I was playing with this, I wasn't serious. I just did a subject now, did one next year, did 2, 3, and so until I think 2013, I really forced to finish, and I got it done, and I eventually got my degree from them. It's not accredited with South Africa's Qualifications Authority, so it's not SACO accredited. And then I was also domestic violence trainer for the police, so I attended the trainer course, and then I did domestic violence training for police members in the Mount Road cluster. They use districts now, but at the time that I was doing this, I did the training in the Mount Road cluster. I also did a course in public speaking and skills. I don't know what skills that is, I can't even remember the course. I also did a course in project management, NQF level 5. So I'm a project manager as well. Have an NPO transformation station, actually run our soup kitchen in Terblanche Street in Galdendale through this NPO. And this was after I founded Bay Christian Church. Initially it wasn't called Bay Christian Church, we were called Exalt the Word Ministries. And there's something behind this name also. Maybe in another episode I'll tell you about this, why this name, because I didn't decide on this name when I started the church. I had the name from the time of Bible school, I use it as an outreach ministry, even had a website over years with that name. But when I planted, we started the church, and then you can see the logo. This tree in the middle survived to where we are with Bay Christian Church. What do I have here? Let me show you this. I'll just unplug this. I don't know if you can see the logo of the church here. So that survived. A friend of mine actually did the design for me. So when we switched from Exalt the Word and we changed our name, had a proper meeting, special general meeting with the church to approve the name change. I had to change obviously the name on our constitution, change it with the bank, change it with SARS and all of that stuff, because we registered as a public benefit organization with SARS, our church, so we exempted from paying tax. And so for the churches out there, you need to register with SARS. You can't just work with money and you're not registered with SARS. So TCN, the Christian network, they helped us do that. They helped us register but you can in your own right, and you don't have to be an NPO and NPC to register as a PBO. The Tax Act allows for you as a church to register, so you don't need to be an NPO. I actually don't believe you should be an NPO church, because I don't think you should be accountable to government, because if you're an NPO, you're accountable to the Department of Social Development, and I don't want a social worker who doesn't know God to be able to come to make me and our church accountable to them. So our church as a body is accountable to God, but we respect the laws of the country, which is why, because we work with money, people give offering, we spend things, we buy things, we do things financially. So we register with SARS as a public benefit organization. So at least SARS works with the movement of money in the nation. They know that and so our when we do our annual financials, and now's the time, this time of the year, where we gather all our financial bookkeeping and our slips and everything and our statements, and we send it to our accountant and tax practitioner, and he normally does our financials and he submits a copy to SARS as well on our e-filing. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. So I also did a course at Maranatha Community Church in Joburg. This was my class, my group in 2019. They're also part of the Christian Network, and so I did this training course. You basically do 4 weeks a year for the whole course, and it's 4 days per week. I don't know if they still do it. I also, after me, I went in 2019. 2020, I sent 3 of our leaders on that training as well. They couldn't finish because of COVID, but I think they did 3 of them, before COVID really made it hard, and they had to postpone some of the classes, and that's why our group couldn't finish. I can't even remember if they finished. But anyway, so I went on this progressive pastoral training course, progressive pastoring program, presented by Maranatha Community Church in Kempton Park. It was a good course. It's really good to go and be there. And by the way, we are in this network because in 2014, when I got promoted back to police head office in spiritual services, I actually joined as a member in Hatfield Christian Church in Pretoria. So there's a lot of stories to tell, and I actually became one of the volunteer pastors there. And so I loved the way they do things, I loved the way they operate, I loved the spirit of the place. In fact, my final words when I came back to P after resigning from the police, this final speech I gave them at the farewell they held for me at Hatfield, my final words to them were, "You guys are Christians. You guys are, I think the best compliment I can give you guys are Christians." The way they handle themselves, the way they handle the change over from the previous senior pastor to the current senior pastor, those people are Christians. Anyway, so that's why when I planted Bay Christian Church, we planted in 2017. Early in 2018, we joined the network. I applied to join the network, and we went through that process until we were served a probationary period, and then we were accepted, and we got our membership in October 2018. But anyway, so that's how we got to know about the training at Maranatha. And then I did a course, accredited course in facilitation skills. So I'm a accredited facilitator. And then now, because the studies I did, the diploma I did, and the degree, the bachelor's in Christian education, because they weren't accredited, there is this ACRP, Association of Christian Religious Practitioners, the Council for General Ministry Practitioners. Now, ACRP, they are registered under SACWA as a professional body for religious leaders, really. So there's a professional body, so they basically have the power to look at give you recognition for prior learning, including all non-accredited studies, qualifications, and experience, and then give you a professional designation based on your RPL, So the designation they give me was a religious professional. So that means I am accredited under SACWA through ACRP with my studies and my RPL at the time. I think I first did this in 2019 or 2020. Yeah, it could be 2019. I think I got my first one, and they gave me a designation on the level of bachelor's or honors. So that's the level I'm operating at in terms of my professional designation under the South African Qualifications Authority. As you can see here, ACRP has been recognized as professional body by SAQA, and this is the registration number of ACRP. So, and then I do attend, trainings that they have because you need CPD points. And I attended the spring conference, Zoom online one last year, and they gave me the certificate for it. So I just wanted you to know that I am preaching, but I'm also doing continuous development all the time. In fact, these booklets that you saw me staple yesterday is training that I designed and put together years ago already. This one I did in 2018, but this one I did in 2015 already. So so even the people that I lead, I give continuous training. So I had a session with a group in our church last night where I did some training, and I believe in continuous development. So it's not just about preaching behind the pulpit, it's about studying to show yourself approved unto God as a workman that doesn't have to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And my coffee got cold while I'm talking to you. So let me stop this here. I'm sure I don't even know how long I was. Now let me stop this here. God bless you, and I pray that these sessions, these episodes are a blessing to you. I'm going to share a bit more about my life and my salvation in coming episodes. I can't guarantee whether I'm going to do this every day. I'm just going to do in the spur of the moment because this is how it started. And I was just inspired by these things to do something again this morning. So quickly on the heels of yesterday's one. But anyway, we'll probably get back to another one next week sometime. But God bless you. Enjoy this, and I pray that it'll be a blessing to somebody in Jesus' name. Amen.